India records over 4,000 new COVID-19 deaths for 3 days in a row.
Despite
Al-Birr
its
Association reacts to recent theft in disguise of hijab. And thousands of pro-Palestinian protesters rally in Madrid to slam Israeli strikes on Gaza. This and more coming on this week newscast. Hello viewers, you're watching this week newscast with me, Mariama Cham, and thanks for joining us. Now, India continues to experience an overwhelming high rate of COVID-19 fatalities as daily new cases continue to surge. The country has recorded more than 4,000 COVID-related deaths in 3 days in a row, according to India's health ministry. Binda Fateh has the rest of that in the story.
The second wave of the pandemic has swept across India's capital and left nothing but pangs of woe, misery and cry. The gruesome situation has some bodies piled up on the banks of rivers, with families losing loved ones who can't get treatment in time. Morgues and crematoriums are overwhelmed and struggling to handle the number of deaths coming in. New Delhi's largest cremation ground lies on the banks of the Yamuna River. The number of wood pliers has been significantly increased to handle the more than 80 bodies that come in every day. It's a sharp rise from 15 just a few months earlier. Moreover, Delegate Cemetery, a Muslim burial ground, is short of manpower and space to bury the dead. Mohammed Wasim, a worker at the Delegate Cemetery, said the situation this year is different from last year's. It is much more than last year. Last year, it was not like this. But this year, there has been too much damage. The inadequate cremation infrastructure has led to parking lots being converted into cremation grounds. After navigating India's crumbling medical infrastructure, grief-stricken family members line up at these overburdened crematoriums to complete the last rites for their loved ones who have died from the virus. Shahib, a local resident, explained how his wife died. My wife died last Sunday, April 25th. She suddenly had a fever 4 or 5 days back and her condition worsened, but we kept her at home. Then her oxygen levels started dropping, so we shifted her to a hospital in Mayapuri, where she was admitted. Saturday she was given plasma, but she passed away on Sunday. The inadequacy of oxygen and the dwindling supply of vaccines has led to a lot of criticisms from the public as the death tolls continue to rise. On Sunday morning, data from the Federal Health Ministry of India showed an increase in the number of COVID-19 confirmed cases. COVID cases in India rose to 24,684,007, with a death toll of 270,284 across the country. For the past 24 hours, 311,170 new cases were recorded countrywide, with the death toll of 4,077. For iAfrica TV News, I am Binta Fati.
Now, President Adama Barrow has, during his meeting with the Banjul elders, responded to public criticisms against his government. He chose to direct his energy towards what he called the need to embrace peace for the prosperity of the Gambia. About whether or not it is time for him to step down, Mr. Barrow noted that he was chosen by the people to lead and he will retire when the appointed time is due. Ibrahim Omar Ahmed Ture reports.
President Adama Barrow acknowledges receipt of derogatory comments directed at his administration via media, a situation he says does not even suit the speakers. While he calls on people to uphold principles, either speaking the truth or remaining silent, Mr. Barrow echoes the need to cherish peace and prosperity. He has this to say to his fellow politicians.
I had one politician recently who held a press conference saying, "We are bandits and we should be removed from government." Those are bad statements. If you are in a leadership position, there are certain things you should not say. We are all natives of this country and we all know one another. so it is not necessary for us to say such to one another. If we are bandits and criminals, people would not have selected us to lead the country.
President Barrow tells political leaders to preach peace and allow Gambians to select leaders who would represent them.
If you want to be president, it is Gambians that will make you president. So certain statements are not fit for leaders. Let's preach peace only. You often listen to my political statements, and I always preach peace in my statements. Gambians select leaders, and they select whom they want. But if Allah selects anyone, that person becomes the leader. And I believe I have been selected by Allah. I believe too my presidency will come to an end. Allah that selected me is the one who will end my leadership.
Earlier this month, Standard newspaper quoted President Barrow as saying that he prefers death to shame in the coming presidential election, although his party members argue that the proverb he used in his native tongue was mistranslated into the English language. As Gambia gears up for presidential election, concerns over the rate of crimes are rising, as there is hardly a week of silence from cases of alleged murder and related criminal activities. Opposition groups have always blamed the Barrow administration for negligence on the issue of national security. Reporting for iAfrica TV, this is Omar Ahmadu Toure.
Now, thousands of pro-Palestinian protesters have gathered in Madrid's Central Square to demonstrate against the ongoing conflict in Gaza. The Jala Tower, which is used by international media such as the Associated Press and Al Jazeera, has been targeted and destroyed by the Israeli military. The Israeli military says the building contained military assets belonging to the intelligence effects of Hamas. Fatmata Kasim has more.
These scenes in Madrid have been repeated across Europe, with pro-Palestinian marches taking place in cities across France, Belgium, Italy, Germany, and Australia, among others. However, some Jewish groups have called the protest as anti-Semitic, and there have been reports of synagogue being defaced and flag burned. But the protesters feel that Israel's use of force in this latest conflict has been disproportionate. A protester angrily blamed other nations for keeping quiet on the matter. The people are very, very angry. No one deserves this. With this war, no one deserves this. The people are angry because some countries don't want to talk about it. Though both the Jews and the Arab Muslims date their claims to the land back a couple thousand years, the current political conflict began in the early 20th century. After the Ottoman Empire was defeated in the First World War, the British took control of the area known as Palestine. The bloody conflict between Israelis and the Palestinians is said to have begun about a month ago when Jews in the area of the East Jerusalem threatened Palestinian Arabs to evacuate their homes. According to another protester, the land belongs to the Palestinians and should be returned to them. Why is this unjust? Unjust because Israel is occupying our land. It doesn't belong to them. Targeting the homes of Hamas and Islamic jihadist commanders, and Palestinian armed group fired dozens of rockets towards Israel. The latest escalation came after a week of tension in contested Jerusalem. An Israeli military spokesperson said in a statement that the building contained military assets belonging to the intelligence offices of Hamas. No evidence of the claim has been provided. The spokesperson says that Hamas, an Islamist Palestinian movement that runs Gaza, hides behind civilian media offices and uses them as human shield, alleging that Hamas deliberately placed military targets at the heart of densely populated civilian area in the Gaza Strip. For iAfrica News, I am Fatmata Kasim.
Now, Al-Birr Association, a charitable Islamic group, has reacted to the recent incident involving women in disguise of the hijab to steal from the Serekunda markets. The Secretary General of the organization calls on all Muslim women to stick to their religious prescription in wearing the veil despite the provocation. Naisisa reports.
The wearing of hijab is one of the most common identities of female Muslims in the Gambia, and it cuts across the population, especially during the month of Ramadan. Despite its religious significance, The dress code is being used in certain instances by criminals in disguise of good Muslims to commit crimes such as theft. It is from this angle that concerned Muslims in the name of Al-Birr held a press conference to sanitize public misconception on the Islamic dress code and warn against any attempt aimed at stigmatizing women in the hijab. One of the Islamic scholars at the conference, Sheikh Hamad Jaite, gave some of the context to the theme of discussion.
This meeting is very important as it will help in clarifying that people have been fighting Islam since the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Islam is a complete system of devotion, life and living. It is a complete system of social interaction. The deen that is already completed, and anyone who wants to give their own perception about Islam, you will always be a cursed person. And if Allah curses you, you will not hear the truth, you will not say the truth, and you will not see the truth.
Imam Al-Hassan Cham assured that albeit no other than the peaceful approach to counter the enemy of Islam and to stand in solidarity with women behind the veil for the sake of Allah.
We won't fight anyone. We are here for peace. We are calling on all hijabis to stick to their deen. No one can stop them. We are saying this to everyone across the country. We will make all efforts to make sure that every Muslim in the Gambia wears hijab.
The Secretary General of Al-Birr Association, Aminata Jaite, advised women in hijab who are facing discrimination in the society to be strong and seek more knowledge on how to keep on their dutifulness to Allah.
Because for me, empowerment starts with education. If you are not educated in your deen, you will be harassed, you will be humiliated, you will be embarrassed. So as young ladies, this is the beginning for you. And I want to assure you that if you are equipped with the right knowledge, the right skills, and the right attitudes, nobody will ever harass you. And I just want to make it very simple, that this is where you start from. Ensure that you are enlightened about your deen. Know everything that you should know about your deen. No man would ever harass you, not in any respect. Make sure that when you go out, you are with the right character and the right attitude. Nobody would look at you and say, hey, I want to talk to you. They dare not. Even if you are younger and you respect yourself, you have the right attitude in public, nobody will ever approach you. Talk less of harassment.
Established in 2008, Al-Birr Association is a charitable Islamic group which is set to raise awareness and help in the development of the Muslim Ummah in terms of community development and knowledge about Islam. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Daisy.
And the report by Daisy will take us to a quick break, and we'll be right back with the rest of the news. Stay with us.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put into constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia, it's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Kololi Sands is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
Welcome back, and still on this week newscast. Now, Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson have called on rich nations to support the education of children in low-income countries by backing the Global Partnership for Education initiative. The two leaders held a virtual meeting to lay the ground for the July fundraising summit. At the summit, Leaders are expected to advocate for girl-child education as well as lobby for increased investments in digital technologies, especially in developing countries. More in this report by Binta Fati.
GPE is a multilateral platform that seeks to raise $5 billion to support the education of 175 children in low-income countries across the world. The virtual meeting was held among other objectives to lay the foundation for the July fundraising summit. The high-level summit seeks to advocate for girl-child education as well as lobby for increased investment in digital technologies, especially in low-income countries. In July, Kenya and the UK will host a high-level summit in London during which they aim to raise the fund. Some of the funds will be specifically invested in girl-child education and bridging the digital learning divide. President Uhuru Kenyatta and Prime Minister Boris Johnson spoke when answering questions from pupils of Westland Primary School in Nairobi and Claves Cross Primary School in Ferry Hill, England, during a virtual tour of the two schools.
First and foremost, it is important for every single child to have an opportunity to get a quality education. Now, of course, in some parts of the world, like Kenya and many other parts of the world, resources are scarce. And that's why myself and Boris are really trying to work hard over the next couple of months to raise the money that we're trying to raise to ensure that no child is left behind and everyone has an opportunity to get a quality education that therefore gives them a quality foundation to be great citizens of the globe in years to come.
President Kenyatta challenged countries that will benefit from the GPE to ensure that they also contribute to education for all agenda by allocating adequate resources in their budgets. In 2017, the World Economic Forum rated Kenya's education system as the strongest on the African continent. The British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said the world needs to come together, especially the rich nations, to pool finances to ensure children have access to quality education.
We want the world to come together. We want the richest countries to make a big contribution to educating the young people of the planet. Uhuru is right. We've got to make sure that we bridge the digital divide. We've got to help people with technology, but we've also got to focus on the divide between boys and girls. And so
education is the fountain for freedom and socio-economic development for developing countries. Critics of African educational systems say access to quality education in most African countries remains a struggle due to the high rate of corruption and poverty, low budget allocation to education, poor infrastructures, low quality teaching and learning programs, among a host of other issues contributing to the underdevelopment of the continent. For our Africa TV News, I am Binta Fati.
Now, the Minister of Youth and Sports, Bakari Baji, says unemployment and illicit drug use are the major factors causing high crime rate in the Gambia. Minister Baji made the remarks while addressing the youth during an interview with iAfrica TV on the day of the Eid. Statistics appear to show that the country's unemployment rate was at approximately 9.11% in 2020. Fatmata Kasim has the rest of that.
Unemployment rate in the Gambia remains unchanged at 8.90% in 2019 from the same percent in 2018. However, the rate of unemployed Gambians rose to 9.11% in 2020 according to statistics. Like other nations, the unemployment rate measures the number of people actively looking for a job as a percentage of labor force. Youth and Sport Minister Bakari Baji said even though they have not done research to establish what exactly causes the high crime rates, all indications are pointing towards unemployment.
Well, let me start with the root cause. I think there are multiple issues. From my own observation, I know we've not really done any research to establish what exactly is the cause in terms of Gambia. But from all indications, we can say it's likely due to, one, unemployment. We have a very huge percentage of unemployed young people. And secondly is the other factors. This time around, COVID, I guess, is a contributing factor because we have a lot of young people that were dependent on some other industries to gain employment or informal employment, particularly with regards to the tourism. Last year, this year, tourists are not coming to the Gambia as we expected. And for that, those young people that are dependent on the industry do not have anything to do. So they kind of all within living in the communities without income, and that also kind of triggers things that force them to enter into crimes.
A record shows that cannabis sativa remains the most commonly abused illicit drug in the Gambia. Individuals of varying ages and economic class use it mainly due to its affordability. However, quite a lot of foreign nationals are involved in the selling and trafficking of hard drugs, thus seriously affecting a huge number of youths. To Minister Baji, the increase in the use of drugs and alcohol by the young people is also a factor.
But also we've realized an increase in the use of drugs and alcohol. So when the young people get intoxicated, they're also out of control, and sometimes they get up doing a lot of things. And when they don't have the money to buy those intoxicants, they end up stealing or will find a way of getting it. So,
according to him, the way forward is to address all the underlying causes. He advised the young people not to take the law into their own hands whenever they are in grief. The youth minister is of the view that there are proper ways and procedures to address their concerns, urging them to first engage their community leaders before it can be addressed at a national level. For iAfrica News, I am Fatoumata Kassim.
And the report by Fatmata Kassim on the youth minister that illicit drugs are major factors causing crime rates in the Gambia brings us to the end of this week's newscast. I am Mariama Cham. Thanks for watching and do have a blessed week ahead.
tey moom dama ne naa ñëw xool ci sa tabax